Standing outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, I clutched the newly printed divorce agreement, my palms ice cold. Justin's phone rang, and the name flashing on the screen was Lena. He answered almost instantly, his previously frosty face melting away, his voice gentler than I had ever heard before. "Lena, you've arrived at the airport? Don't move, I'll come pick you up right away." I stood there, motionless, like an abandoned statue, watching him carefully instruct the person on the other end of the phone as if she were a fragile treasure. And I, 3 months pregnant with his child, stood here waiting for him to get a divorce, feeling like a piece of trash in the way. After hanging up the phone, Justin's gaze fell on me, and the last bit of warmth vanished instantly, leaving only impatience and indifference. "Amber, what are you still standing there for? Lena is back. We'll talk about the divorce tomorrow." He turned to leave without a second thought. I called out to him, my voice so calm it was almost frightening, "Justin, we have to get a divorce today." He whirled around, his brow furrowed, his eyes filled with the disdain of someone looking at a madman. "Have you had enough? Wanru just got off the plane alone, she's not feeling well, I don't have time to waste on you." Not feeling well? I subconsciously touched my slightly protruding belly. The early pregnancy symptoms were tormenting me, making it hard to eat or sleep. The doctor said my pregnancy was unstable and I needed to rest. I mentioned it to him, and he only coldly replied, "You're being delicate." It turns out, it wasn't that I was delicate, it was just that I wasn't the one he cherished most. The woman named Lena was his true love, the one he held dear and protected. And what was I? A repulsive wife bound to him by a family marriage agreement. I'm not making a scene. I handed him the divorce papers, each word clear and distinct. "Sign them, and you can go see your Lena without any burden." "Are you threatening me?" Justin's face darkened completely, radiating a chilling aura. I looked at him and suddenly smiled. For 3 years of marriage, I'd been like a fool, thinking that as long as I tried hard enough, was good enough, I could warm his heart of stone. I learned to cook for him, drank alcohol for him at social events, and gave up my beloved design career to be the woman behind him. In the end, he couldn't even bear to look at me. It turns out, if someone doesn't love you, they just don't love you, all your efforts are in vain. It's not a threat, it's about letting go. I took a deep breath, suppressing the sob in my throat, letting you go, and letting myself go too. Justin stared at me for a long time, his deep eyes swirling with emotions, surprise, scrutiny, but not the plea I had hoped for. Finally, he gave a cold laugh, snatched the pen from my hand, and hastily signed his name on the agreement. "Amber, don't regret it." He threw the signed agreement back into my arms as if it were trash. "Without me, you're nothing." After saying that, he got into the black Bentley without looking back and drove away. I watched the car disappear around the street corner, finally unable to hold on any longer, and slowly squatted down. Tears silently streamed down my face. Did I regret it? No. I just felt heartache for my love that died in my womb, heartache for the 3 years of my youth that I had wasted. My phone vibrated, it was a bank text message. "Your bank card has received 5 million yuan. Message, alimony." I stared at the number, a self-deprecating smile playing on my lips. 5 million. Buying out my 3-year marriage and an unborn child. "Justin, you're really generous." I wiped away my tears, stood up, and carefully put away the divorce agreement. Then, I called my assistant, "Book me the fastest flight abroad, destination, anywhere is fine, the farther the better. From this day forward, Amber is dead. Those who survive must live well for themselves and their children." As the plane took off, I watched the cities outside the window shrink smaller and smaller, feeling utterly empty. A young mother in the seat next to me was gently and patiently comforting her crying baby. I instinctively touched my lower abdomen, there, a little life was growing. He was mine, and only mine. Goodbye, Justin. No, goodbye forever. I turned off my phone, leaned back in my chair, and closed my eyes. These past 3 years have been exhausting. From today onward, I will live for myself. The plane pierced through the clouds, and the sunlight streamed through the window, warming my face. I felt as if I could smell freedom. Once I arrived abroad, I settled in a quiet little town. The scenery was beautiful, and the people were kind and friendly, perfect for my pregnancy. With the 5 million Justin gave me, I rented a small house with a garden and hired a nanny to take care of my daily needs. With the remaining money, I invested it all in a design studio that was on the verge of bankruptcy. I was originally a design student and had even won international awards, but I was willing to give up my studies and become a cook just for Justin. Now, I want to pick up my lost dream, bit by bit. Pregnancy is tough. Morning sickness, edema, cramps, every single one of them tormented me to the point of despair. Especially in the dead of night, loneliness and resentment would overwhelm me like a tidal wave. Several times, I couldn't resist calling Justin to tell him I was pregnant and that I was in so much pain. But every time I picked up my phone and saw his cold face, I put the phone down again. I told myself, Amber, don't be pathetic. That man isn't worth it. I poured all my energy into my work. Under my leadership, the studio gradually improved. Our first project was the renovation design of a church in a small town. With my belly swollen, I shuttled between the construction site and my studio every day, drawing plans, selecting materials, and supervising the work. Although it was tiring, I felt an unprecedented sense of fulfillment. 10 months later, I gave birth to a boy. I named him Caleb. After my baby was born, my life became even busier. I was busy at the studio all day, and when I got home at night, I still had to feed the baby and change diapers. I hardly had any time to sleep, and I became incredibly thin. But looking at my soft, cuddly little one in my arms, I felt it was all worth it. He is my weakness, and also my armor. For him, I can become an invincible Superman. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, 5 years have passed. My design studio has grown from an unknown little workshop into a well-known design company in the industry. I also have a new name, Elsa. In the design world, the name Elsa represents inspiration, stunning beauty, and the ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. No one knows Elsa's true identity, all that is known is that she is a mysterious Eastern woman who rarely shows herself. That day, I received an invitation to a top-tier international auction. Among the items up for auction was a private island I'd long admired. That island was the perfect location for my next resort project. Looking at the gold-embossed logo on the invitation, I smiled slightly. It was time to go home. 5 years later, at Haicheng International Airport. I held Caleb's hand as we walked through the VIP lane. He was wearing a smart little suit and cool sunglasses, his little face tense, looking every bit like a little adult. "Mommy, why did we come back?" Caleb asked me, tilting his head up in his childish voice. I ruffled his hair and smiled, saying, "To take back what belongs to us." Caleb nodded, seemingly understanding, and then fell silent. He was more mature than other children his age from a young age, and he knew it wasn't easy for me to raise him alone, so he never let me worry. My assistant was already waiting outside, and immediately came to greet me when I came out. "Elsa, welcome back." I nodded, handed her my luggage, and got into the car with Caleb in my arms. The car drove smoothly along the wide road. The scenery outside the window was both familiar and strange. 5 years had passed, and Haicheng had changed a lot. There were more high-rise buildings, and it was more prosperous. The only thing that remained unchanged was that familiar, suffocating smell in the air. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Caleb keenly noticed my change in mood and placed his little hand on the back of my hand. I snapped out of my reverie and smiled at him. "Nothing, Mommy's just a little tired." Caleb didn't ask any further questions, but simply held my hand a little tighter. I know he's comforting me in his own way. My son, what a sweet little man. The auction is in 3 days. For those 3 days, I didn't go anywhere. I stayed in the hotel to adjust to the time difference and, incidentally, research the auction information. Knowing yourself and your enemy is the key to victory. This auction is packed with celebrities and business tycoons. The competition is sure to be fierce. Especially that private island, its prime location and stunning scenery will undoubtedly attract a lot of attention. I must be fully prepared. On the day of the auction, I left Caleb at the hotel with my assistant and dressed up for the occasion. I chose a black strapless gown with tiny diamonds adorning the hem, which sparkled under the lights. Her long hair was pulled back, revealing her slender swan neck, and her face was adorned with exquisite makeup, her red lips like fire. She was like a rose blooming in the dark night, cold and beautiful, yet thorny. As I entered the venue, I immediately attracted everyone's attention. There was amazement, curiosity, and a sense of wonder. Without looking to the side, I walked straight to my seat and sat down. My seat was in the first row, with an excellent view. After sitting down, I habitually looked around. Then, my gaze met a pair of unfathomable eyes. Those eyes, I would recognize them even if they turned to ashes. Justin. He was also sitting in the first row, diagonally opposite me. 5 years had passed, and he seemed unchanged, still with that aloof air, his handsome features carrying a hint of detachment and coldness. Only, there seemed to be a touch of weariness in his eyes that I couldn't decipher. He was looking at me too, his eyes filled with a hint of inquiry and doubt. Clearly, he didn't recognize me. Of course, I'm called Elsa now, no longer the Amber who followed him, humbled to the point of being in the dust. I gave him a slight nod as a greeting, then looked away. My heart, however, was pounding uncontrollably. I thought I had long since moved on from him. But seeing him again made me realize that some wounds, even after they've scabbed over, still hurt. The auction began quickly. The first few items were antique paintings, calligraphy, and jewelry, which didn't interest me much, so I lazily leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes to rest. Then, the catalogue of the private island appeared on the big screen. I instantly sat up straight, my gaze becoming focused. The host began introducing the island. The next item for auction is Blue Moon Island in the South Pacific, covering an area of approximately 50 square kilometers. The island boasts beautiful scenery, a pleasant climate, and private beaches and piers. The starting bid is $500 million. No sooner had the host finished speaking than someone raised their paddle. $550 million. $600 million. $620 million. The price climbed steadily, quickly breaking the 1 billion mark. I didn't raise my paddle, I just watched quietly. I was waiting for the perfect opportunity. When the price soared to 1.2 billion, and only 2 people remained bidding, I calmly raised my paddle. 1.5 billion, I announced, causing a stir throughout the room. All eyes turned to me. The 2 bidders were stunned, clearly taken aback by my sudden and extravagant bid. The host excitedly shouted, 15 billion. This lady has bid 15 billion. Is there anyone higher? The room fell silent. Just when I thought I had the island in the bag, a deep male voice rang out. 16 billion. I looked in the direction of the voice and saw the person holding the paddle. It was Justin. He looked at me, a hint of provocation in his eyes. I frowned. What did he want this island for? The Shin Group's business doesn't seem to involve tourism real estate. Could it be that Lena likes it? The thought sent a pang of pain through me. But it was quickly replaced by a fierce, defiant spirit. Why should I give it to him? I, Amber, have never failed to get what I wanted. I raised my paddle again, 2 billion. Justin's face darkened, but he followed without hesitation, 2.1 billion. 2.5 billion. 2.6 billion. We went back and forth, neither of us willing to give in. The price was driven up to an astonishing height. The people around me were completely dumbfounded, watching as if they were witnessing a battle of gods. Even the host was flushed with excitement, his voice trembling slightly. Finally, I shouted out an astronomical price, 50 billion. The entire audience gasped. 50 billion to buy a deserted island? That's insane. Justin's face turned extremely ugly. He stared intently at me, as if trying to bore a hole through my face. I met his gaze without fear, a faint smile playing on my lips, I knew this price had exceeded his expectations. Sure enough, he hesitated. Just as the host began the countdown, I suddenly put down the sign in my hand and said to my assistant, "I'm not going to participate anymore." The assistant paused for a moment, then reacted and gave me an okay sign. Meanwhile, at the last second, Justin, almost inexplicably, raised his bidding paddle. 50 billion. Bang! The gavel fell. Sold. Congratulations, Justin, you've won Blue Moon Island for 50 billion. Thunderous applause erupted throughout the room. But Justin's face showed no joy. His gaze remained fixed on me, his eyes filled with frustration and confusion. I stood up, straightened my skirt, raised my glass to him, and silently uttered 2 words, "Thank you." "Thank you, Justin. You saved me 5 billion. I wasn't planning on buying this island myself anyway. I wanted you to bid on it and make you the sucker." With that, I turned and, in my high heels, gracefully left under the watchful eyes of everyone. Justin was left alone, sitting there with a livid face, like a fool who had been played. Walking out of the auction hall, I let out a long sigh of relief. 5 years' worth of pent-up resentment seemed to vanish in that instant. Justin, this was just the beginning. Our score wasn't settled yet. Back at the hotel, Caleb was already asleep. I leaned down and kissed him on the forehead, then went into the bathroom and took a long, refreshing shower. It washed away the fatigue and the tension of the battle. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. My mind was filled with Justin's shocked and angry face. To be honest, seeing him get his comeuppance made me feel a sense of satisfaction. But after that satisfaction came a pang of loss. After all, he was the man I had loved for 3 whole years. I had always thought we would grow old together, surrounded by children and grandchildren. But reality had given me a resounding slap in the face. The next morning, I was still asleep when I was woken up by a rapid doorbell ring. With my hair all messed up, I went to open the door, and instantly snapped awake when I saw who was standing there. Justin. He wore a well-tailored black suit, his hair was neatly combed, and he looked handsome, tall, and had a powerful presence. However, his deep eyes were bloodshot, and there was a stubble on his chin, making him look somewhat haggard. "What's up?" I blocked the doorway, not letting him in. Justin's gaze swept over me, finally settling on my face, his brow furrowed. "Who exactly are you?" I yawned lazily, leaning against the doorframe. "Who I am is none of Justin's business." "Elsa," he called my name, a hint of inquiry in his eyes. "I checked your background, it's very clean as a blank sheet of paper." "So?" I raised an eyebrow. "Justin, are you here to check my background?" Justin was taken aback, his face turning somewhat unpleasant. He took a deep breath, suppressing his anger, and said in a low voice, "What happened yesterday? Did you do it on purpose?" "What happened?" I feigned ignorance. "Oh, you mean the auction? Justin is rich and powerful, spending 5 billion to buy an island. What, are you regretting it now?" "You." Justin's forehead veins bulged with anger. He stepped forward, trying to grab my wrist, but I nimbly dodged. "Justin, please have some self-respect," I said coldly. "This is a hotel, not a place for you to run wild." Just then, a sweet, childlike voice came from the room. "Mommy, who is it?" Caleb rubbed his eyes and came out of the bedroom. He was wearing an adorable Pikachu pajama set, his hair was all messy from sleeping, and he looked incredibly cute. When he saw Justin at the door, he paused for a moment, then his large, dark eyes filled with wariness. Justin's gaze also fell on Caleb. Upon seeing Caleb's face, his body stiffened abruptly. That face was practically a carbon copy of his childhood self. The same eyebrows, the same nose, the same mouth. An absurd thought flashed through his mind. He suddenly looked up, staring intently at me, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Who is he?" I shielded Caleb behind me and said calmly, "My son, none of your business." "It's all right?" Justin seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world. He approached me step by step, his eyes bloodshot. Amber. It's you, isn't it? You're not dead. I was shocked. He actually recognized me. Well, Caleb's face was the best proof. Now that I've been recognized, there's no need for me to pretend anymore. I straightened my back, met his gaze, and said coldly, yes, I am Amber. What, Justin, are you disappointed? Justin looked at me, his eyes filled with an incredibly complex mix of emotions, anger, regret, pain, and even a hint of unfathomable ecstasy. He reached out to touch my face, his voice terribly hoarse, Amber, you're back. I turned my head away in disgust, avoiding his touch. Don't call me that, it disgusts me. His hand froze in midair. The expression on his face also froze instantly. Mommy, who is he? Caleb peeked out from behind me, asking curiously. I patted his head and said softly, a complete stranger. Then, I looked at Justin, my eyes as cold as knives. Justin, if you have nothing else to say, please leave. My son needs breakfast. With that, I turned to close the door. Justin braced himself against the door with astonishing strength. Amber, you'll never escape from me again. He stared intently at me, saying each word clearly, and our son, you won't get to keep him all to yourself either. Our son? How ridiculous. Who was it that signed the divorce papers without even knowing I was pregnant? And now that they've seen their son, they want to claim him as their own? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Justin, get this straight. I looked at him, my eyes full of sarcasm. First, we're divorced and have nothing to do with each other. Second, Caleb is my son alone, and has nothing to do with you. On his household registration, the father's section is blank. My words were like sharp knives, piercing Justin's heart. His face turned deathly pale instantly. His body swayed uncontrollably. No. It can't be. He murmured, as if struck by a tremendous blow, Amber, you can't do this to me. Why can't I? I sneered. And how did you treat me back then? Justin, you can't be so hypocritical. Just as we were at an impasse, a woman in a pink dress, looking gentle and charming, stepped out of the elevator. It was Lena. She paused for a moment when she saw us, then quickly walked over. Justin, what are you doing here? She affectionately took Justin's arm, then her gaze fell on me, a hint of hostility flashing in her eyes. And who is this? Justin ignored her, just stared intently at me. I smiled, however. I looked at Lena and deliberately said in an ambiguous tone, hello, I'm Justin's ex-wife. Lena's face turned pale instantly. Lena's face was deathly pale, as if all the blood had been drained from her. Her grip on Justin's arm tightened involuntarily, her knuckles turning white. Ex-wife, she looked at Justin, her voice trembling almost imperceptibly. Justin, what happened? Justin's gaze remained fixed on me, ignoring Lena's questions. The storm in his eyes grew fiercer, as if it would devour me. Amber, explain yourself. What's going on with this child? He roared, his voice filled with suppressed pain. I was amused by his expression, finding it incredibly ironic. An explanation? What explanation does Justin need? I crossed my arms, watching him calmly. An explanation for why I didn't die? Or an explanation for why I gave birth to this child? I took a step forward, leaned close to his ear, and said in a voice only the two of us could hear, Justin, are you disappointed that I survived? After all, a dead ex-wife won't stop you and your white moonlight from living happily ever after. His body trembled violently, as if my words had pierced his most painful spot. I didn't. He began, his voice hoarse, I didn't think that way. Oh? Is that so? I scoffed, taking a step back to create distance between us. That's not important. What's important is that I'm alive and well now, with my son. As for you, I looked him up and down, my eyes filled with disdain, you're just a stranger who donated a sperm. You. Justin trembled with anger, slamming his fist against the doorframe with a dull thud. Mommy, I'm scared. Caleb was terrified by the scene, his face pale, and he clung tightly to my leg. I lovingly picked him up and gently comforted him. Caleb, don't be afraid, Mommy's here. My actions completely ignited Justin's fury. He glared at me like an enraged lion, his eyes bloodshot, as if he were about to pounce and tear me to pieces. Amber. You dare say he has nothing to do with me? Look him in the face and say it again. I could say it 1,000 times and it would be the same. I met his gaze without flinching. He's my son, Caleb. He has absolutely nothing to do with you, Justin. Lena watched our tense standoff, a flicker of panic crossing her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a calculating glint. She walked forward softly and weakly, tugged at Justin's sleeve, and said in a tearful voice, Justin, please don't do this, it will frighten the child. This? Amber, I think there might be some misunderstanding between us. She turned to me, her face contorted with a pitiful expression. Amber, I know you may still harbor resentment towards Justin, but the child is innocent. Justin, he's missed you a lot these past 5 years, Shut up. I interrupted her coldly. This woman's tactics haven't improved at all, just like 5 years ago. With just a few words, she tries to portray herself as a kind, understanding, and selfless saint. Unfortunately, I'm not buying it anymore. Lena, what happens between Justin and me is none of your business. I looked at her, my eyes icy. Stop with your hypocritical act, it disgusts me. Lena's face turned pale and then red, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. She looked at Justin with a wronged expression. Justin finally shifted his gaze from me to Lena. He frowned, pulled his arm away from hers, and said curtly, go back first. Lena froze, looking at him in disbelief. Justin? I told you to go back. Justin's voice carried a hint of impatience. Lena's tears instantly streamed down her face. She bit her lip, gave me a wronged look, and then turned and ran into the elevator. The farce had finally come to an end. I looked at Justin and curled my lips in a mocking smile. What? Feeling sorry for him? It's not too late to catch up now. Justin ignored my sarcasm, he just stared intently at Caleb in my arms, his eyes filled with longing and pain. Amber, he softened his voice, with a hint of pleading, let's talk, okay? Just for the sake of the child. For the sake of the child? He still had the nerve to mention the child? I sneered, there's nothing to talk about. Justin, please leave and don't disturb my child's normal life. After saying that, I gave him no further chances, grabbed Caleb, and slammed the door shut. Outside, Justin's painful pounding on the door echoed. Amber! Open the door! Open the door! Amber, I beg you, let me see the baby. Amber! I leaned against the door, listening to his hoarse roar. My heart felt like it was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand, the pain making it hard to breathe. Caleb, in my arms, whispered, Mommy, is he? Daddy? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and when I opened them again, my eyes were clear again. No. I hugged him, turned and walked towards the restaurant, my voice firm. Caleb only has a mommy, not a daddy. From that day on, Justin clung to me like a leech. Wherever I went, he followed. When I went to the office, he'd wait downstairs. When I met clients, he'd ambush me at the restaurant entrance. Even when I took Caleb to the amusement park, he'd suddenly appear out of nowhere, like a stalker. I changed hotels, and he tried every means to find my new address. I called the police, but when they came, they just said it was a domestic dispute, offered a few words of advice, and left. I was driven to the brink of collapse by him. That day, I had just left the company when I saw his car parked at the door. He leaned against the car, a cigarette between his fingers, its crimson glow flickering in the night. Seeing me come out, he immediately stubbed it out and came to greet me. Amber, Justin, what do you want? I interrupted him, unable to contain myself any longer. I miss you, I miss the children. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a vulnerability and humility I had never seen before. "Amber, let's remarry. Give me a chance to make it up to you." "Remarry?" I felt like I'd heard the funniest joke in the world. "Justin, are you dreaming?" I looked at him and said, word by word, Amber, will never go back to eat your rotten shit, even if I die alone for the rest of my life." His face turned deathly pale instantly. Justin seemed frozen in place by my words, his face ashen, his lips twitching but unable to utter a single word. Seeing his utterly dejected state, I felt no pleasure, only utter exhaustion. "Justin, if you really feel you owe us, then stay away from us and stop bothering us." I opened the car door and got in. "That's the only thing you can do for us." The car started, and I didn't look at him again. In the rearview mirror, I saw his figure standing there for a very long time, like a weathered stone statue, lonely and desolate. Back at the hotel, I called my assistant. "Help me expedite the development plan for Blue Moon Island. Also, announce publicly that Elsa Design Studio will officially enter the domestic market." The assistant was somewhat surprised. "Elsa, so soon? We're not fully prepared yet." "No need to prepare." I looked at the night view outside the window, my eyes firm. Some people and some things are better done sooner rather than later. I want Justin to see clearly that I, Amber, can live a better and more fulfilling life without him. I want to establish myself in the domestic design industry and build my own business empire. I want to be so powerful that no one can easily harm me or my son anymore. The news immediately caused a huge stir in the industry. Elsa's decision to return to China was like a bombshell, shaking the entire design world. Countless collaboration invitations flooded my inbox like snowflakes. Media interview requests nearly overwhelmed my assistant's phone. I shortlisted a few key partners and began intensive negotiations. At the same time, I was also preparing for the studio's location selection and recruitment. I was so busy every day that I barely had time to think about those worries. Justin, on the other hand, quieted down for a few days and didn't bother me anymore. I thought he had finally come to his senses and given up. But I was too naive. That day, I was in a video conference with an important partner when the doorbell rang in my hotel room. Thinking it was my assistant, I casually said, "Come in." The door was pushed open, and the person who walked in made my expression change instantly. It was Justin. He was carrying an exquisite thermos, with a fawning smile on his face. "Amber, I heard from Aunt Jean that you haven't had a good appetite lately, so I specially asked the kitchen to make you your favorite pigeon soup." In the conference room, everyone's eyes were fixed on me, their gazes filled with gossip and curiosity. My face instantly flushed red. "Justin, get out," I said through gritted teeth, lowering my voice. Justin seemed not to hear me, walked straight to my side, opened the thermos, and a rich aroma instantly filled the air. "Drink it while it's hot, it'll taste fishy when it cools down." He handed me the bowl of soup, his voice so gentle it was almost sweet. Looking at his magnified handsome face and the steaming bowl of pigeon soup, I felt a wave of nausea. "I told you to get out, can't you understand human language?" I stood up abruptly and shoved the bowl he offered me away. Crack! The soup bowl fell to the ground and shattered. Scalding hot soup splashed all over Justin's hand. His hand instantly turned bright red. But he seemed oblivious to the pain, just staring at me blankly, his eyes filled with hurt and disbelief. The partners on the other end of the video call were also stunned by this sudden turn of events. The scene became quite awkward. I took a deep breath and forced a smile at the screen. "Sorry, everyone, something unexpected has happened on my end. The meeting will have to be paused for now." After saying that, I immediately turned off the video. Then, I looked at Justin, my eyes as cold as ice. "Justin, are you sick? Do you know how important my meeting you just ruined?" I just wanted you to have some soup." He looked at me, his voice tinged with grievance. "I don't need it." I screamed hysterically at him. "I don't need any of your concern. Get out. Get as far away as possible." My emotions completely spiraled out of control. All the pent-up resentment and anger of the past few days exploded at that moment. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Justin panicked completely when he saw me crying. He stood there helplessly, wanting to hug me but afraid I would push him away. "Amber, don't cry. It's my fault, I was wrong." He apologized incoherently. "I'll never do it again. Please don't cry." I cried even harder. For the past 5 years, I've been alone abroad, enduring hardship and exhaustion without shedding a single tear. But now, in front of him, I'm crying like a child. I hate him, and I hate this pathetic version of myself. Just then, Caleb ran out of the room. Seeing the mess on the floor and the tears on my face, he immediately rushed to Justin like a little lion who had been provoked, using his small body to shield me. "You're not allowed to bully my mommy," he roared at Shinzei, his big eyes filled with anger and hostility. Justin looked at the miniature version of himself in front of him, and his heart felt like it had been ripped apart, the pain making it hard for him to breathe. This was his son. His own son. But now, his son treated him like a thief, looking at him with the eyes of an enemy. A tremendous wave of regret and pain instantly overwhelmed him. Faced with his son's angry accusations, Justin seemed to have all his strength drained away, his tall frame swaying slightly. He crouched down, trying to look Caleb in the eye, his voice hoarse and barely audible. "Caleb. I didn't bully your mommy, You are." Caleb interrupted him without hesitation, his little fists clenched tightly. "My mommy cried. You bad person. I hate you." The child's words were innocent, but every word was piercing. Justin's face was drained of color, and his eyes, which were always filled with shrewdness and indifference, were now filled with endless pain. He reached out, as if to touch Caleb's head, but froze in midair, and finally fell limply to his side. As I watched this scene, the anger in my heart gradually subsided, replaced by a cold desolation. I wiped away my tears, pulled Caleb behind me, and my voice regained its usual indifference. "Justin, did you see that? Even a 5-year-old knows right from wrong. Between us, it's over." I paused, then continued, "For Caleb's sake, this is my last warning. If you dare harass me this way again, don't blame me for being ruthless." With that, I took out my phone and dialed the hotel security. "Hey, a strange man has broken into my room. Could you please come up and handle this?" Justin looked at me in disbelief, his eyes filled with hurt. "Amber, you really went this far?" "You forced me to," I replied coldly. Soon, 2 security guards came up. They clearly hesitated when they saw Justin. After all, Justin was a big shot in Haicheng, known to everyone. "Please ask him to leave," I said to the guards expressionlessly. The security guards exchanged glances, but finally steeled themselves and stepped forward. "Justin, I'm sorry, please." Justin didn't make things difficult for them. He just gave me a deep look, his eyes filled with disappointment and sorrow, as if he were looking at a complete stranger. Then, he turned and left my room with heavy steps. Watching his desolate figure, I felt no emotion. Nothing is more sorrowful than a broken heart. I was utterly disappointed in this man. With Justin gone, my life finally had some peace and quiet. The studio's location was quickly decided upon, right in Haicheng's most bustling CBD. As soon as the job posting was sent out, resumes poured in like snowflakes. I personally interviewed them, selecting a group of talented and energetic young people to form my core team. Everything was proceeding smoothly. That day, I was reviewing design drafts in my office when my assistant knocked and entered. "Elsa, Justin from the Shin Group is here and wants to see you." I frowned. "I won't see him." "But, he said he'd wait downstairs if you didn't see him," the assistant said, somewhat embarrassed. I sneered, "Let him wait if he wants. Don't bother with him. Justin is like a leech, the more you pay attention to him, the more clingy he becomes." The best way was to ignore him and let him make a fool of himself. Sure enough, Justin waited downstairs from morning till night, but I didn't even show my face. The next day, he came again. The third day, he came again. Rain or shine, without fail. He was like a statue waiting for his wife, arriving at my company building on time every day. Soon, the news spread throughout the company. Everyone knew that the handsome man who drove his luxury car and waited patiently downstairs every day was the president of the famous Shin Group in Haicheng, and the person he was waiting for was our mysterious and aloof director Elsa. In no time, all sorts of gossip and rumors spread like wildfire throughout the company. Some said I was Justin's ideal woman, and that he abandoned his fiancée for me. Others said I was Justin's mistress, now pregnant and trying to take his place. Even more outrageous rumors circulated that I was Justin's business rival, and that he was pursuing me to steal our company's trade secrets. I completely ignored these rumors. The truth will out. I just need to focus on doing my own job well. That day, after I finished working overtime and left the company, it was almost 11 o'clock. Justin's car was still parked downstairs, as expected. He was leaning against the car door, a cigarette between his fingers, the scarlet flame flickering in the night. Seeing me come out, he immediately stubbed out his cigarette in the nearby trash can and strode towards me. Amber. I ignored him and walked straight to my car. He followed behind me, his voice tired and hoarse. Amber, let's talk, just 5 minutes. I stopped and looked back at him. Under the streetlights, he looked haggard, with sunken eyes and a stubble of stubble on his chin. His expensive suit was also wrinkled and worn. He looked nothing like the aloof Justin he always was. He resembled a stray dog abandoned by someone. My heart skipped a beat for no reason, but I quickly suppressed it with reason. I have nothing to talk to you about. Yes. He looked at me, his gaze as stubborn as a bull's, about Blue Moon Island. I was taken aback. What do you mean? Get in the car and we'll talk. He opened the car door and gestured for me to get in. I hesitated for a moment, then got in. The car sped along and finally stopped in front of a private club. Justin led me into a private room. Inside, sat someone I never expected, Lena. She was wearing a white dress, her long hair flowing over her shoulders, and her face was adorned with exquisite makeup. She looked pure and innocent. Seeing me come in, she stood up and gave me a sweet smile. Amber, you're here. I ignored her and looked at Justin with cold eyes. Is this what you wanted to talk to me about? Justin's expression was also a little unpleasant. He clearly hadn't expected Lena to be here. Lena, what brings you here? Justin, I heard you made plans with Amber, so I wanted to come and listen in. Lena walked affectionately to Justin's side, took his arm, and acted like the lady of the house. After all, what happened on Blue Moon Island is also related to me, isn't it? She turned to me, her smile tinged with a hint of smugness and provocation. Amber, you probably don't know this, but Justin spent $5 billion to buy that island as a birthday present for me. He said he'd build me the most beautiful castle in the world on it. My heart ached as if pricked by needles, a sharp, throbbing pain. So that's how it was. I thought he bought that island on a whim, to spite me. I never imagined it was to win a smile from his beloved. Justin, you're such a romantic. Looking at Lena's victorious demeanor, I just found it laughable. So, after all that trouble, Justin invited me out just to let me witness their dramatic display of affection. I suppressed the surging emotions in my heart and put on a mocking smile. Oh? Is that so? Then congratulations to Lena. A $5 billion birthday gift. Justin is really generous to you. I paused, then changed the subject, looking directly at Justin with a hint of amusement. However, I'm curious, Justin, did you invite me here today to design your castle? If so, my design fee is quite high. Justin's face instantly turned incredibly grim. He shoved Wanru's hand away and hissed, Lena, don't talk nonsense. Then, he looked at me and urgently explained, Amber, don't misunderstand, it's not like that. I bought that island not for Justin. Lena interrupted him sharply, looking at him in disbelief. What do you mean? You promised me. When did I promise you? Justin's brows furrowed tightly, his eyes filled with impatience. I just said I'd think about it. You've misunderstood. I misunderstood? Lena's tears instantly streamed down her face. She pointed at me, her voice shrill. It's because of her, isn't it? Because she's back, so you're going to go back on your word. Justin, you liar. She cried so pitifully, her face streaked with tears. 5 years ago, if I had seen this scene, I probably would have softened my heart, and might even have felt that I had ruined their relationship. But now, I just find it noisy. Enough, I said coldly, interrupting their argument. Justin, I have no interest in watching your melodramatic soap opera. If you invited me here just for this kind of pointless stuff, then I'm not playing along. With that, I turned to leave. Amber, don't go. Justin rushed forward and grabbed my wrist. His hand was burning hot, like a branding iron, making my heart tremble. I instinctively tried to pull away, but he held on even tighter. Amber, let her go. A cold male voice suddenly came from the doorway. I turned around and saw a handsome man in a white casual suit, with a refined and scholarly air, standing in the doorway. It was Kai. My senior from university, and now my business partner. Senior? What brings you here? I asked, somewhat surprised. Kai walked over and subtly shielded me behind him, then looked at Justin with a hint of hostility in his eyes. Justin, men and women shouldn't touch each other. Please let go of my girlfriend. The word girlfriend hit Justin's heart like a boulder. His pupils suddenly contracted. He instinctively loosened his grip on my hand. I was stunned for a moment, then realized that Kai was trying to help me out of a difficult situation. Instead of calling him out, I took his arm and gave Justin a provocative smile. Let me introduce you, this is my boyfriend, Kai. Justin's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. He stared intently at my arm linked with Kai's, his gaze seeming to pierce through her. Boyfriend, he spat out the word through gritted teeth, his voice icy cold. Amber, when did you get a boyfriend? This doesn't seem to have anything to do with Justin, does it? I leaned against Kai, smiling sweetly. When we got together is none of Justin's business. Kai also put his arm around my waist and gave Justin a victorious smile. Justin, can you move aside now? I still need to take Amber home. Justin stood still. He watched our intimate moment, a storm raging in his eyes that seemed to engulf the entire private room. Lena, standing to the side, was also stunned by this sudden turn of events. She glanced at me, then at Justin, a hint of schadenfreude flashing in her eyes. Just as the atmosphere reached a stalemate, Justin's phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID, his expression changed slightly, and then he walked aside to answer the call. I don't know what was said on the other end of the phone, but his expression grew increasingly grim. Finally, he hung up, saying to me, Amber, you just wait. Then, without looking back, he hurriedly left. Seeing this, Lena quickly followed him. Only Kai and I remained in the private room. I breathed a sigh of relief, let go of Kai's hand, and smiled gratefully at him. Thank you, Senior, for helping me again. Kai looked at me, a hint of heartache in his eyes. Amber, you. He hesitated, then stopped. I knew what he wanted to say. I smiled, feigning nonchalance, and said, how was your training? Was my acting just now Oscar-worthy? Kai sighed, not seeing through my act. He raised his hand and gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. Let's go, I'll take you home. Okay. On the way back, I remained silent. Kai didn't say anything either, just drove quietly. Soft, soothing music played in the car. Amber, Kai suddenly spoke, if you feel tired, you can lean on my shoulder. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. For the past 5 years, everyone has only seen my glamorous side, how I transformed from a penniless abandoned woman into a queen who commands respect in the design world. But only Kai could see the weariness and vulnerability beneath my strong exterior. Besides Caleb, he is the person in this world who understands me the most. When I first arrived abroad, I was all alone and penniless. He took me in, helped me find a place to live and a job, and gave me the most selfless help during my most difficult time. Later, when I opened my own studio, it was him who used all his connections to help me find clients and resources. You could say that without Kai, there would be no Elsa today. I can never repay this kindness in my lifetime. Senior, I looked at him, my voice slightly choked. Thank you. Silly girl, he said, freeing one hand to ruffle my hair affectionately. Why are you being so polite with me? I smiled and didn't say anything more. The car quickly arrived at the hotel. I unbuckled my seatbelt and was about to get out when Kai suddenly grabbed my arm. Amber, he looked at me, his eyes serious. What you said in the private room wasn't entirely false. I was stunned. I like you, I've liked you since college. He said each word clearly and distinctly. Give me a chance to take care of you and your child, okay? I was completely stunned. I never imagined Kai would like me. I've always considered him my best friend, my closest family member. But I've never thought about love. Looking into his expectant eyes, my heart was in turmoil, and I didn't know how to respond. Faced with Kai's sudden confession, my mind went blank. Love? That word felt too distant, too luxurious for me. Ever since Justin broke me, I've kept my distance from love. I'm afraid. Afraid of giving my heart away again, only to be left heartbroken. Senior, I opened my mouth, but didn't know what to say. Refusing would be too hurtful. Accepting. I couldn't do it. My heart was already dead. Kai noticed my predicament. He smiled, a hint of bitterness in his expression, and said, It's all right, you don't need to answer me now. I just wanted you to know how I feel. He paused, then continued, Amber, I won't force you. I'll wait for you until the day you're willing to accept me. His words were like a warm current, slowly flowing into my cold heart. I looked at him, my eyes welling up with tears. What have I done to deserve such deep affection from such an outstanding man? Senior, I'm sorry, I said softly, lowering my head. Right now, I really don't have the energy to think about relationships. I understand. He looked at me gently. You've just returned to China, your career is just starting, and you also have to take care of Caleb. It must be very hard for you. Don't worry, I won't put any pressure on you. We're still the same as before, best friends and closest family. His understanding made me feel even more guilty. Thank you, Senior. Silly girl. He affectionately pinched my nose. Hurry up and go, Caleb must be getting impatient. Okay. I got out of the car, stood by the roadside, and watched his car merge into the traffic and disappear into the night. Back in the room, Caleb was already asleep. Looking at his peaceful sleeping face, my heart softened. No matter what, for Caleb's sake, I had to be strong. The next day, as soon as I arrived at the office, I received an unexpected phone call. It was Justin's mother, Karen. Her voice was as elegant and dignified as ever, but with a hint of barely perceptible urgency. Amber, I'm Justin's mother. Let's meet. I initially wanted to refuse, but then I thought, why not meet her? Some things need to be put to rest. We arranged to meet at a fancy coffee shop. When I arrived, Karen was already there. She was dressed in a well-tailored Chanel suit, her hair meticulously combed, and her face exquisitely made up, looking even more elegant and sophisticated than 5 years ago. When she saw me, she merely glanced at me indifferently, her eyes filled with scrutiny and disdain. Sit down. I pulled out a chair and sat down opposite her. Karen, what's up? I asked bluntly. Karen picked up her coffee, took an elegant sip, and then slowly said, Amber, name your price. How much money do you want for you to leave my son and leave Haiching? I couldn't help but laugh out loud, as if I'd heard the funniest joke in the world. Karen, are you mistaken? It's your son who's clinging to me like a leech, not the other way around. Karen's face darkened, she was clearly taken aback by my words. She put down her coffee cup, took a check from her bag, and pushed it in front of me. Here's 10 million. That's enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Take the money, take your child, leave this place, and never show your face in front of us again." Her tone was as if she were dismissing a beggar. I looked at the check and felt utterly ironic. 5 years ago, Justin bought our marriage with $5 million. 5 years later, his mother wanted to buy off all possibilities between us with $10 million. In their eyes, I, Amber, am just a woman who can be bought with money. "Karen, do you think I look like someone who needs $10 million? I pushed the check back, saying casually. Karen's brow furrowed even more. "Then what do you want?" "I don't want anything." I looked at her and said, word by word, "I just want the people of your Shin family to stay away from me and stop bothering my life." "You." Karen's face turned pale with anger. "Amber, don't be so ungrateful. Who do you think you are now? A discarded woman kicked out of the Shin family, with a child in tow. What right do you have to negotiate with me? A discarded wife? A burden?" I sneered. "Karen, you probably don't know, do you? This burden you're talking about is the only grandson of your Shin family." Karen's pupils constricted sharply. "You, what did you say?" "I'm telling you," I leaned closer and lowered my voice, "Caleb is Justin's biological son. The only bloodline of your Shin family." Boom. It felt like something exploded in Karen's mind. She stared at me in disbelief, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word for a long time. "No. It's impossible, Justin, how could he have a son?" "Why not?" I looked at her calmly. "I was already pregnant when I left 5 years ago. It's just that the Shin family members were blind and didn't notice." My words were like knives, piercing Karen's heart. She clutched her chest, her face deathly pale, her breathing rapid. You bitch. How dare you lie to us?" She pointed at me, trembling with rage. "I lied to you?" I thought to myself, as if I had heard the biggest joke in the world. "Karen, get this straight, from beginning to end, you've been deceiving yourselves. You're the ones who pushed your own grandson out into the fray." With those words, I turned and left the coffee shop without looking back. Karen was left alone, sitting there listlessly, as if all her energy had been drained away. Since the day I confronted Karen, my world has become much quieter. Justin hasn't come to my office building to wait for me anymore, and Karen hasn't called to bother me anymore. I'm happy to have some peace and quiet, and I poured all my energy into my work. The studio quickly got on track, took on several big projects, and made a name for itself in the industry. Kai would often come to the company to see me, sometimes bringing me some good food, sometimes helping me look at my design drafts and giving me suggestions. He was like a gentle older brother, quietly protecting me, giving me support and encouragement. The employees at the company all assumed we were a couple and often joked about it. To this, I just smiled, neither confirming nor denying. I admit, I have feelings for Kai. He's gentle, considerate, and talented, almost every fantasy I have about a partner. But I don't dare. I'm afraid my past will cause him trouble. I'm also afraid that I'll never be able to love someone as passionately as I used to. That day, I was drawing in my office when Kai called. "Amber, are you free tonight? Come with me to a dinner party." "What kind of dinner party?" "A business charity dinner. A lot of industry bigwigs will be there. It'll be good for you to expand your network." I thought about it and agreed. That evening, Kai picked me up in his car. I was wearing a champagne-colored fishtail dress with a white cashmere coat over it. My long hair was slightly wavy and draped lazily over my shoulders. When Kai saw me, his eyes lit up, and he exclaimed sincerely, "Amber, you look so beautiful today." I felt a little embarrassed by his compliment and smiled. "You're handsome too, senior." He was wearing a white suit today, which made him look even more refined and elegant. The two of us standing together were quite a handsome couple, a perfect match. The banquet was held in the ballroom of a 5-star hotel. When we arrived, it was already quite crowded. The atmosphere was one of elegance and luxury, with elegantly dressed people and clinking glasses. Kai led me through the crowd, introducing me to his friends. This is Elsa, a rising star in the design world, and also," he paused, glanced at me, and said with a smile, "a very important friend." Everyone knew Kai's status in the design world, so they naturally treated his female companion with great respect. In an instant, I became the focus of the entire room. Many people approached me to exchange business cards and discuss cooperation. I handled them with ease, but a sense of melancholy lingered in my heart. There was a time when I had attended similar dinners. Only then, my role was Justin's wife. A vase, unworthy of the spotlight, relegated to the background, a mere backdrop for men. And now, I've earned everyone's respect and recognition through my own abilities. It feels wonderful. Just as I was having a pleasant conversation with a real estate tycoon, a discordant voice suddenly broke in. "Oh, isn't this Amber? What a coincidence." I turned around and saw Lena wearing a pink princess dress, arm in arm with a slick-haired, rich second-generation guy, looking at me defiantly. I frowned and ignored her. She persisted, walking over and looking me up and down before saying sarcastically, "Amber looks radiant today. I wonder if it's because of your own abilities or the man beside you." The rich second-generation heir next to her also leered, "Lena, what are you saying? A beauty like Amber, what skills does she need?" With a snap of her fingers, men will naturally be willing to go through fire and water for her. Their conversation drew sidelong glances from those around them. Everyone's gazes became somewhat ambiguous and playful. Kai's face darkened, and he was about to speak when I stopped him. I looked at Lena, smiled, but there was a hint of coldness in my smile. "Lena, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. I'm standing here because of my work and my talent. Unlike some people who only rely on men, like parasitic plants, clinging to life." My words were like a resounding slap across Lena's face. Her face instantly turned a deep purplish red. What nonsense are you spouting?" "Whether I'm spouting nonsense or not, you know it in your heart." I was too lazy to waste any more words with her and pulled Kai to leave. "Stop." The rich second generation next to Lena suddenly stepped forward and blocked our way. He leered at me, his face full of ill intent. "Amber, don't be in such a hurry to leave. My name is Martin, I'm the son of the Wan group. Want to be friends?" As he spoke, he reached out to touch my face. Kai's expression instantly turned icy cold. He shoved Martin's hand away, shielding me behind him, his voice icy, "Get your filthy hands off me." Martin stumbled, nearly falling. He regained his balance, pointing angrily at Kai, "Who the hell are you? How dare you touch me? I'm her boyfriend." Kai pulled me into his arms, asserting his ownership. "I'm warning you, stay away from her. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." "Boyfriend?" Martin exclaimed as if he'd heard the biggest joke in the world. "You pretty boy? Do you know who I am? My dad is the chairman of the Wan group. If you offend me, I'll make sure you can't stay in Haicheng." "Is that so?" Kai sneered. "I'd like to see how you're going to make our lives miserable." Just as the two sides were on the verge of exploding, a deep, cold male voice suddenly came from not far away. "Who wants to make it so my woman can't make a living in Haicheng?" I looked in the direction of the voice and saw Justin, dressed in a black bespoke suit, walking towards us surrounded by a group of people. His face was so gloomy it could drip water. His deep eyes, like icy swords, shot straight at Martin. Martin instantly cowered upon seeing Justin. His arrogance vanished without a trace, replaced by a look of obsequiousness and fear. "Justin, what brings you here?" Justin ignored Martin's fawning. He walked straight up to me, his deep gaze sweeping over me before finally settling on Kai's hand around my waist. His eyes instantly turned several degrees colder, like a sharp knife, as if he wanted to chop Kai's hand off on the spot. Kai sensed the powerful pressure emanating from me, but he didn't back down. Instead, he held me even tighter. Two equally outstanding men locked eyes, and sparks seemed to fly through the air. Everyone around held their breath, afraid to make a sound, lest they be drawn into this silent war. "Let her go," Justin said, looking at Kai, each word carrying an unquestionable command. Why should I? Kai retorted without backing down. Justin, Amber is my girlfriend. It's none of your business if I hug my girlfriend, isn't it? Your girlfriend? Justin sneered, his laughter full of sarcasm. Kai, ask her if she admits it. His gaze shifted to me, carrying a hint of domineering certainty. My heart skipped a beat under his gaze, and I instinctively tried to break free from Kai's embrace. But Kai held me down, whispering in my ear, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Looking into his resolute eyes, a warm feeling welled up inside me. I took a deep breath, looked up, and met Justin's gaze. My voice wasn't loud, but it was exceptionally clear. Yes, Kai is my boyfriend, Justin. We're divorced. You don't need to worry about my private life. My words were like a bucket of cold water poured over Justin's head. The color drained from his face instantly. His eyes, which were always brimming with confidence and dominance, were now filled with pain and disbelief. He staggered back a step, as if he had been hit hard. What did you say? I repeated, my voice devoid of any warmth, "Please don't bother me and my boyfriend's life anymore." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. No one had expected me to dare embarrass Justin in public. This woman was incredibly audacious. Martin and Lena, in particular, watched Justin with smug satisfaction. They were eager to see him make a fool of himself. Justin stared intently at me, the light in his eyes gradually dimming. After a long while, he gave a self-deprecating laugh, a laugh filled with sorrow and despair. Well, Amber. He turned around, as if all his strength had been drained, and stumbled out. That departing figure exuded an indescribable loneliness and desolation. Watching him walk away, my heart felt heavy, as if something was blocking it, making me feel suffocated. I thought I would feel better. But why, seeing him like that, does my heart still ache? Amber, are you all right? Kai asked with concern. I snapped out of my reverie, shook my head, and forced a smile. I'm fine. Let's go. Okay. The atmosphere in the car was somewhat subdued on the way back. I kept looking out the window without saying a word. Kai didn't speak either, but silently turned the car music to my favorite song. Senior, I finally spoke as we approached the hotel. Thank you, for today. You're being too polite with me. Kai smiled. But Amber, are you really sure? I knew what he was asking. I was silent for a moment, then nodded. Yes. Perhaps starting a new relationship is the best way to forget the past. Kai is a good man I can entrust my life to. I think I would be very happy with him. Kai seemed to read my mind. He sighed and pulled the car over to the side of the road. Amber, he turned to me, looking at me intently, I hope you accept me because you like me, not to spite Justin, or to use me as a tool to forget the past. His words pierced through the deepest thoughts in my heart. I lowered my head, feeling embarrassed, and didn't dare to look him in the eye. Amber, listen to me. He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his gaze. Feelings can't be forced. If you're not ready yet, I can wait. I don't want to see you wronging yourself. His eyes were as gentle as spring water, capable of melting all the ice in the world. My tears, uncontrollably, streamed down my face. Senior, I'm not good enough for you. I choked out, I'm a divorced woman with a child, Shoo. He pressed his finger to my lips, stopping me from saying anything more. In my heart, you are the best woman in the world. I don't care about your past. I only care about your future, and whether I can be a part of it. He leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on my forehead. Amber, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just let things take their course, okay? I looked at him and nodded, my eyes brimming with tears. The next day, I took Caleb and moved out of the hotel into the apartment Kai had prepared for us. It was a cozy duplex apartment with a large terrace filled with flowers and plants. Caleb loved it. As soon as he entered, he excitedly ran around looking at everything. Mommy, will we live here from now on? Yes. I patted his head. Do you like it? I love it. He nodded vigorously. It's so much more fun here than the hotel. Seeing his happy face, I couldn't help but smile too. Perhaps this is a good start. Kai, Caleb, and I, the three of us, can form a new family. A warm home filled with laughter and joy. However, I was too naive. I thought that as long as I made up my mind, I could say goodbye to the past completely. But some people and some things are like marks etched into my life, which I can't erase no matter how hard I try. On our first weekend in our new home, Kai suggested taking us to a farm in the countryside. Caleb, who had never seen real cows and sheep before, was so excited by the suggestion that he danced with joy. Seeing his happiness, I readily agreed. The farm had a clear blue sky, lush green grass, and the air was filled with the fragrance of grass and earth. Caleb was like a wild horse, running and frolicking freely on the grass. Kai and I followed behind him, watching his carefree smile, and felt a sense of peace and joy in our hearts. If only it could always be like this, Kai said softly, taking my hand. I looked at him, smiled, and didn't say anything. Yes, if only it could always be like this. No Justin, no Lena, no those awful pasts. Just the three of us, simple and happy. At noon, we ate lunch at the farm's restaurant. Caleb, tired from playing, lay down on the table and quickly fell asleep. I took off my coat and gently covered him with it. He seems to like you a lot, I said, smiling at Kai. I like him very much too. Kai looked at Caleb with tender eyes. Amber, I will treat him like my own son. I knew he meant it. These past few days, he spent all his free time with Caleb, telling him stories, playing games with him, and teaching him to draw. Caleb, initially reserved, became increasingly dependent on him, even starting to call him Kai Dad. All of this resembled the most beautiful scene I had ever imagined. Yet, a sense of unease lingered in my heart. I felt that this happiness was like a beautiful bubble, easily burst. After finishing our meal, we prepared to head back. Just as we reached the parking lot, we spotted a familiar car. A black Bentley. Justin's car. He was leaning against it, a cigarette between his fingers, watching us with an unreadable expression. Seeing him, I instinctively hid Caleb behind my back. Kai frowned and shielded me behind him. Justin, you're like a persistent ghost, Kai said, a hint of displeasure in his voice. Justin ignored him, staring intently at me, his voice hoarse. Amber, let's talk. I have nothing to talk to you about, I replied coldly. Yes. He stubbed out his cigarette and walked towards me step by step. It's about Caleb's custody. My heart sank. What do you mean? It means, he looked at me, his eyes as cold as a knife, that Caleb is my son and must return to the Shin family. You have no right to take him away from me. Justin, you bastard. I was trembling with anger. Caleb is someone I carried for 10 months and gave birth to with great difficulty. I raised him with love and care. How dare you try to take him from me? Because I'm his biological father. He looked at me and said, word by word, Amber, I advise you to obediently return the child to me. Otherwise, we'll see you in court. See you in court? He actually wants to sue me for custody of Caleb? A wave of panic and anger instantly overwhelmed me. You'll never have him. I screamed hysterically at him. I'd rather die than give Caleb to you. That's not up to you. He sneered, his eyes filled with an air of unwavering confidence. Amber, don't forget who I am. In Haicheng, there's nothing I can't get if I want it. His words were like a bucket of ice water, chilling me to the bone. Yes, he is Justin. He is the president of the Shin Group in Haicheng, the man who can turn the world upside down with a flick of his wrist. And me? I am just a talented designer, a single mother. In terms of wealth, connections, and social status, I am far from being his match. If it really went to court, I had almost no chance of winning. Thinking about this, all my strength seemed to drain away. I hugged Caleb, my body trembling uncontrollably. No, I couldn't lose Caleb. He was my only family, the sole reason I lived. I don't know what I would become if I lost him. Amber, don't be afraid. Kai pulled me into his arms and gave me a firm look. With me here, I won't let him take Caleb away. He turned to Justin, his voice cold. Justin, leave some room for maneuver, so you can meet again in the future. Don't go too far. Absolutely ruthless? Justin seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world. When she took my son and left without saying goodbye, didn't she think about how ruthless she was? Kai, this is between her and me. I advise you not to interfere. Her business is my business. Kai said without backing down. As long as I'm alive, you won't be able to harm them, mother and child, in the slightest. Is that so? A ruthless glint flashed in Justin's eyes. We'll see. After saying that, he gave me a deep look, then turned around, got into his car, and drove away. I watched him leave, my heart sinking deeper and deeper. I knew Justin wasn't joking. A battle for child custody was inevitable. Justin acted swiftly. The next day, I received a court summons. Looking at that cold piece of paper, my hands trembled uncontrollably. It had to happen. Kai found out immediately. He dropped everything and rushed to my house. Amber, don't be afraid. He pulled me into his arms, gently comforting me. I've found the best legal team in Haicheng, we'll definitely win. I leaned against him, but I felt completely uncertain. I knew Kai was just trying to comfort me. But I also knew how difficult this case would be. Justin's legal team is among the best in the country. And in the judge's eyes, I'm just an incompetent mother who abandoned her husband and children for 5 years and deprived her child of a father's love. From any perspective, I'm at a disadvantage. Senior, what if I lose? I looked at him, my voice tinged with despair. No, it won't. He cupped my face and looked at me earnestly. Amber, you have to believe in me, and you have to believe in yourself. You are a good mother. Everyone has seen how much you have sacrificed for Caleb. The law is just. His words gave me a glimmer of strength. Yes, I couldn't let myself be defeated like this. For Caleb's sake, I had to be strong and fight to the end. Over the next few days, I began actively preparing for the lawsuit. I compiled all the evidence I had gathered regarding my care of Caleb over the past 5 years. This included his birth certificate, vaccination records, childhood photo album, and bills for all the expenses I paid for him. I also contacted some of my friends and neighbors from when I was abroad and asked them to testify in court that I was a responsible and good mother. Kai has been working tirelessly for me. He used all his connections to find evidence and witnesses, and even went to see Justin in person, hoping to reach a private settlement. But Justin's attitude was unusually firm. He only wanted custody of Caleb, everything else was out of the question. The night before the trial, I couldn't sleep. I sat by Caleb's bedside, looking at his sleeping face, and tears silently streamed down my face. My baby, Mommy is so afraid of losing you. If Mommy loses tomorrow, will you blame Mommy? The next day, dressed in a black business suit, I walked into the courthouse with Kai. Justin and his legal team were already waiting there. When he saw me, he merely glanced at me indifferently, his eyes devoid of any warmth. We've finally reached the point of going to court. The atmosphere in court was solemn and dignified. The lawyers on both sides engaged in a fierce exchange of words. Justin's lawyer focused heavily on my alleged concealment of the child's existence and depriving the child of paternal love. They portrayed me as a selfish, cold-blooded, and wicked woman who disregarded my child's feelings. My lawyer, on the other hand, presented all the evidence I had gathered over the past 5 years to raise Caleb, proving that I was a good mother. Both sides stuck to their own stories and refused to back down. The judge listened in silence, offering no comment. I knew the key to this case lay with Caleb. The judge would surely respect the child's wishes. Sure enough, during the final statement phase, the judge requested to see Caleb alone. My heart leaped into my throat. I don't know what Caleb will choose. Even though he says he hates Justin, blood is thicker than water. Justin is, after all, his biological father. If he chooses Justin, I don't dare think about it anymore. Caleb was led into a separate room by the bailiffs. Justin and I waited anxiously outside. Time ticked by, each second an agonizing experience. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the door opened. The judge emerged, his face calm. He looked at me, then at Justin, and announced, after communicating with the child, "This court now pronounces its verdict." My heart leaped into my throat. Caleb's custody is awarded to his father, Justin. Boom. It felt like something exploded in my head. I couldn't believe my ears. I lost. I actually lost. I staggered back a step, and if Kai hadn't caught me in time, I probably would have collapsed to the ground. "No, it's impossible," I muttered to myself. "Judge, are you mistaken? Caleb, how could he choose him?" Justin's face showed a victorious smile. He walked up to me, looking down at me with a cold voice. "Amber, I've said it before, if I want something, I can have it." He turned to go get Caleb. Just then, Lena, who had been silent all along, suddenly stepped forward. She walked over to Justin, affectionately took his arm, and then gave me a strange smile. "Amber, I forgot to tell you. I went to see Caleb yesterday." She leaned close to my ear and said smugly in a voice only the two of us could hear, "I told him that if you continue to be with him, his handsome father, Kai, will be ruined and lose everything because of you." My pupils suddenly contracted. Lena's words exploded in my mind like a thunderbolt. I grabbed her wrist, my nails digging deep into her flesh, my eyes bloodshot as I glared at her. "What did you say to Caleb? What did you do to him?" "I didn't do anything," Lena feigned innocence, but a malicious glint flashed in her eyes. "I was just a kind aunt telling him some facts. I told him, you're willing to go against the Shin family just to be with Kai, and many of Kai's company's projects depend on the Shin family. If you insist on being together, Justin will get angry, and Kai's company will go bankrupt. He'll lose everything and won't be able to be his handsome dad anymore. You're insane." I was trembling with anger, raising my hand to slap her. But Justin was faster, grabbing my wrist and shielding Lena behind him, shouting sternly, "Amber, what's wrong with you? You think you can hit someone just because you lost the case?" Watching him defend Lena, my heart ached. This man will never see the truth, he'll always choose to believe this woman who's a liar. "Justin, let me go." I struggled violently, screaming hysterically, it was her. She threatened Caleb. She used Kai to threaten a 5-year-old child. "Do you know that?" Justin frowned, clearly not believing me. Lena immediately squeezed out a few tears, hiding behind Justin with a wronged expression. "Justin, I didn't. I just felt sorry for Caleb and wanted to see him. How could I threaten him?" "Amber, you can't make false accusations just because you lost the case." "I'm making false accusations?" I felt disgusted looking at her hypocritical face. "Lena, do you dare to repeat what you said to Caleb yesterday in front of everyone?" Lena's face turned pale, and her eyes darted away. Just then, Caleb ran out of the room. Seeing the tense situation on our side, his little face turned pale with fright. "Mommy," he cried, running to my side and hugging my leg tightly. I knelt down and hugged him tightly, my voice trembling. "Caleb, tell Mommy, did you choose Daddy because of something that bad aunt said? Tell Mommy, is that right?" Caleb stiffened, lowered his head, and, avoiding my eyes, whispered, "Mommy, I want to be with Daddy." His words were like the last straw, breaking all my resolve. I looked at him, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. My son, my Caleb, chose to sacrifice himself so as not to be a burden to me and to protect Kai. He was only 5 years old. How could he bear so much? My heart is breaking. Justin watched as my son and I wept in each other's arms, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by indifference. He stepped forward and forcibly pulled Caleb from my embrace. "Amber, the verdict is in. From now on, Caleb will be under my custody." "No." I lunged forward like a madman, trying to snatch Caleb back. "Give me back my child. Justin, you bastard. Give me back my Caleb." Two bailiffs stepped forward and stopped me. I could only watch helplessly as Justin, carrying Caleb, walked further and further away. Caleb struggled desperately in his arms, crying out, "Mommy! Mommy! I want Mommy! Caleb!" I screamed his name with all my might, my voice hoarse. Kai hugged me from behind, holding me tightly in his arms. "Amber, calm down. Calm down. How can I stay calm?" I pounded my fist on his chest, breaking down in tears. "He stole my Caleb. He stole my manhood." I cried so hard I almost fainted. The people around me looked at me with pity. Lena walked up to me, looking down at me with a smug smile. "Amber, see? This is what happens when you try to fight me. If I can't have the man, you can't have him either. And his son won't be with you either." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was like a poisoned dagger, piercing my heart. I jerked my head up, staring intently at her, my eyes burning with a desire to devour her alive. "Lena, I'll kill you." I broke free from Kai's embrace and pounced on her like a raging lioness. Ultimately, I was temporarily detained for assaulting someone in court due to emotional instability. Kai arranged for my bail. It was already dark when I left the police station. Like a walking corpse, I was helped into the car by Kai. "Amber, let's go home first." "Home? Where do I have a home anymore? Without Caleb, nowhere is home." I leaned against the car window, watching the street scenes rushing past outside, and tears silently streamed down my face. "Justin, Lena. Amber, swear to God that the humiliation I have suffered today will be repaid tenfold one day. None of you will escape." Back in the apartment, I locked myself in Caleb's room for 3 days and 3 nights without eating or drinking. I hugged his favorite Pikachu plush toy, smelled the lingering milky scent on the pillow, and looked at our photos together over and over again. My tears ran dry, and my heart felt empty. Kai was very worried about me, waiting outside the door every day, constantly trying to comfort me. "Amber, please open the door, can't you eat something? Amber, I know you're sad, but you can't torture yourself like this. Amber, Caleb needs you, you can't give up." Yes, Caleb still needs me. I can't just give up. I have to pull myself together, I have to get my son back. On the morning of the 4th day, I opened the door. Kai was shocked when he saw me. I was emaciated, pale, with sunken eyes, and looked like a ghost. "Amber," he looked at me with concern, his eyes reddening. "Senior," I looked at him, my voice terribly hoarse, "I'm fine." I went into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, then took out my phone and dialed a number. "Hello, is this Attorney Zhang? This is Amber. I want to appeal." I began preparing for the appeal. This time, I wasn't on the defensive, I was taking the initiative. I needed to find evidence that Lena had threatened Caleb. I had Kai investigate Lena's whereabouts that day and quickly obtained the CCTV footage of her meeting with Caleb. Although their conversation cannot be heard in the video, it is clear that when Wanru spoke to Caleb, her expression was full of threat and intimidation. Caleb, on the other hand, looked frightened and helpless. While this video can't serve as direct evidence, it at least proves that Lena is lying. Besides this, I found another crucial breakthrough, Justin. Although he's lost custody of Caleb these past few days, he hasn't been doing well either. I learned from my assistant that the Shin Group is facing a major problem. A crucial overseas cooperation project is on the verge of bankruptcy due to a broken funding chain. And the person in charge of this project is none other than Justin. If this project fails, the Shin Group will face enormous losses, and Justin's position in the company will be in jeopardy. I looked at the documents in my hand, a cold smile playing on my lips. "Justin, your retribution has come." I took the initiative to arrange to meet Justin. The location was the restaurant where we had our first date. When he arrived, he looked terrible and seemed much more haggard than usual. When he saw me, he paused for a moment, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. What brings you here? He sat down opposite me, his voice hoarse. Nothing much, just wanted to treat you to a meal. I smiled and pushed the menu in front of him. Take a look and see what you'd like to eat. He didn't look at the menu, just stared at me, his brow furrowed. Amber, what exactly do you want? I want to make a deal with you. I dropped my smile and cut to the chase. Give me your overseas project. I guarantee I'll revive it. He scoffed as if he'd heard the funniest joke. You? Me? I met his gaze without flinching. Justin, don't forget, my name is Elsa. In the design world, there's no project Elsa can't handle. He fell silent. He knew I was telling the truth. Over the past 5 years, I've single-handedly transformed a small, near-bankrupt studio into an internationally renowned design firm. My abilities are beyond question. What are your conditions? He asked, looking at me intently. Give Caleb back to me, I said, enunciating each word clearly. His face instantly darkened. Impossible. Then there's nothing to discuss. I stood up, about to leave. Wait a minute, he called after me, apart from this, all other conditions are negotiable. I only want Caleb. My attitude was unusually firm. We remained locked in this stalemate. After a long while, he sighed, as if giving in. Amber, I'm begging you. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a weariness and vulnerability I had never seen before. Help me this once. If you help me get through this, I can let you come see Caleb anytime. I looked at him, my heart filled with mixed emotions. How could this once powerful man have spoken to me in such a pleading tone? The tables have turned. Justin, you've finally met your match. I was silent for a moment, then nodded, okay, I'll help you. But I knew in my heart that I was helping him not for his sake, but for my own. I needed an opportunity to get close to the Shin Group. An opportunity that would allow me to uproot them completely. I officially joined the Shin Group as a partner. Justin gave me the highest level of authority. All the company's information was made available to me. I quickly grasped the full details of the overseas project. The situation was worse than I had imagined. The project not only suffered from a broken funding chain but also became embroiled in contract disputes and even involved some illegal shady dealings. The mastermind behind all of this was Lena. It turns out that, in retaliation for Justin's betrayal, she conspired with Martin to sabotage the project, aiming to ruin Justin's reputation and leave him with nothing. This woman is truly venomous. I compiled all the evidence I had gathered and put it into an encrypted USB drive. Then, in my own name, I convened a secret meeting with several major shareholders of the Shin Group. At the meeting, I revealed the evidence on the USB drive to the public. The shareholders were shocked when they saw the evidence. They never imagined Justin would make such a grave mistake, causing such significant losses to the company. Even more unexpected was that it was all orchestrated by a woman behind the scenes. Immediately, public sentiment was agitated. Everyone demanded Justin's removal from his position as president and that he be held legally accountable. As for me, I stepped forward as a savior. Uncles and elders, please calm down. I looked at them and said slowly, Justin may have made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve this. This project, although tricky, is not without hope of recovery. I explained my solution in detail. The shareholders listened with admiration. Finally, after a vote, they unanimously agreed that I would be fully responsible for the project. Furthermore, if I could successfully save the project, they would jointly nominate me as the new president of the Shin Group. I looked at them and smiled. My goal had been achieved. Justin, Lena, your good days are over. After taking over the overseas project, I immediately launched a swift and decisive overhaul. First, I cut off all of Lena and Martin's informants within the project, and then, using the evidence I had, I exposed their underhanded dealings. The Wang Group and Lena were instantly caught in a huge media storm, their stock prices plummeted, and they were struggling to survive, leaving them no time to attend to the Shin Group's projects. Having resolved the external troubles, I began to deal with the internal mess. My team and I worked overtime for a month straight, revising the project plan, finding new investors, resolving the funding issue, and even resolving contract disputes through legal means. The project was brought back to life. When the news reached China, the entire Shin Group was in an uproar. The shareholders sang my praises and had no further objections to my election as the new president. As for Justin, he became a complete joke. He was dismissed from all his positions by the board of directors, leaving with nothing. He went from a high-ranking scion to a penniless loser. I didn't completely destroy him, I simply sent him a card with 500,000 yuan on it. Exactly the amount he gave me when he bought out me years ago. My assistant asked me why I was still giving him money. I smiled and said, because I want him to experience what it's like to be dependent on others. Lena's fate was worse than Justin's. After the Wang Group went bankrupt, Martin, in order to protect himself, shifted all the blame onto her. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison for commercial fraud and embezzlement. When I visited her, she was wearing prison clothes, her head had been shaved, and her face no longer held its former charm and smugness, only endless resentment and bitterness. "Amber, you bitch. You'll die a horrible death," she screamed at me through the glass. I looked at her, smiled, and said calmly, "Lena, you know what? I've never considered you a match. Because you're too weak." After saying that, I turned and left that dark and despairing place. After dealing with everything, I went to the Shin family and brought Caleb back. When Karen saw me, she was no longer the arrogant and domineering person she used to be. She held my hand, tears streaming down her face. "Amber, Mom was wrong. Mom was blinded by greed before, that's why I treated you that way." "Don't blame Mom," I ignored her, just hugged Caleb and walked out of that cage that had once made me suffer so much. From now on, I have nothing to do with the Shin family. 1 year later. A grand wedding was being held at the most luxurious hotel in Haicheng. The bride was me. The groom was Kai. I wore a pure white wedding dress, took Kai's hand, and walked step by step towards the priest. Caleb, dressed in a handsome little suit, was our flower boy. He walked ahead of us, carrying a flower basket, his face beaming with a bright smile. Below the stage sat all our family and friends who cared for and loved us. The priest asked me, "Miss Amber, are you willing to marry this man, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part?" I looked at Kai, and he looked at me too, his eyes filled with love and tenderness. I smiled and said loudly, "I do." Thunderous applause erupted throughout the room. Just as we exchanged rings, a man in a waiter's uniform suddenly rushed up. It was Justin. His hair was a mess, his beard unshaven, and his eyes were filled with madness and obsession. "Amber, you can't marry him. You're my wife. You can only be my wife." He rushed up to me, trying to grab my hand. Kai shielded me behind him, looking at him coldly. "Justin, please have some self-respect. You're not welcome here." Security guards quickly rushed over and restrained Justin. He struggled desperately, yelling at me, "Amber, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Let's remarry. Let's start over as a family of 3. I looked at him, my heart calm. I walked up to him, looked into his eyes, and said, word by word, "Justin, it's too late." After saying that, I didn't look at him again, turned around, and went back to Kai's side. Kai put the ring on my finger, then leaned down and gave me a tender kiss. "I love you, Amber." "I love you too, Kai." The church bells rang at that moment. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, bathing us in warmth and beauty. As for Justin, I don't know what happened to him in the end. I only know that from that day on, he never appeared in my world again. Perhaps he finally understood that some people, once missed, can never be brought back. And I have finally found my true happiness. Kai, Caleb, and I, the 3 of us, will live happily ever after.